To many, the iconic Wembley Stadium is the ultimate destination to see your team play. It's a ground that inspires all football fans from a young age, is widely regarded as the home of the beautiful game, and has been dubbed both the worst place to lose and an unforgettable shrine in which to win. But how does the most expensive football stadium in the world seemingly curse English teams in Europe? Over the years, Wembley has played host to some incredible moments, from underdog cup wins and last-minute dramas to the dramatic rise and fall of the English national team. In more recent times, it's been Spurs who have made the headlines. On May 28, 2016, Tottenham announced a deal with the FA permitting them to use Wembley for their upcoming Champions League fixtures due to the ongoing construction at Hart Lane. The move was necessary in order to meet UEFA requirements affecting access, capacity and rights delivery. As the news broke, Tottenham fans were relishing watching their beloved Spurs battle it out in Europe under Wembley's iconic arch. But the results didn't match the hype. Ahead of their clash against CSKA, Spurs' recent Champions League losses leave them still waiting for a victory at New Wembley that has evaded them since the League Cup final back in 2008 when they beat Chelsea 2-1. But what is it about Wembley that doesn't work for Spurs? Former player and pundit Andy Townsend best summarises the change in scenery. When you play matches at home against top teams in Europe, your advantage is being in familiar surroundings. Here at Wembley, it's a different surface, different surroundings. To start with, the dimensions of the two pitches are drastically different. Hart Lane, the second smallest in the Premier League, sits at just 100 by 67 metres, compared to Wembley's 105 by 75 metre playing field. Mauricio Pochettino already believes the small pitch at Hart Lane has a negative effect on the side's style of play, and in preparation for the move to Wembley, the club installed a replica pitch at their Enfield training ground, with Pochettino stating, "We must trust ourselves in the way we play. It's a good chance for us to play on a big pitch, but in the end, we need to adapt, not find excuses." But in the first two Champions League group games, Tottenham failed to adapt, losing 2-1 to Monaco and 1-0 to Bayer Leverkusen, in which they were massively outplayed, despite having prepared for the larger pitch. So was it the atmosphere to blame? Off the pitch, the stands and the setup of fans is also far from the norm. At the Lane, the steep stands rise from close to the touchline, where supporters can almost reach out and touch the players. This impacts the intensity and pace of the game. However, at Wembley, with the normal Spurs fans being so spread out and jumbled up, with no sense of the traditionally vocal Park Lane and shelf-side support, the atmosphere is far from intimidating and what is expected on a Champions League night. As one Spurs fan stated, "You don't know where any of the chances started, so the whole atmosphere dies as a result." But unlike Hart Lane, Wembley has never felt particularly hostile to the opposing Champions League teams, and probably the biggest aspect to consider is the fact that playing at the historic and iconic Wembley Stadium is a dream come true for any player, coach or fan. What this has meant for Spurs is they have faced some incredibly motivated and adrenaline-fueled sets of fans and players thus far. The opposition are very aware of Wembley's place in football's folklore and treat it as much more of a special occasion than they would a trip to Hart Lane. But is it just Tottenham who are affected by the Wembley curse? In the last 5 matches involving an English side in the Champions League at Wembley, all 5 have ended in defeat. Back in 1998 and 99, Arsenal decided to play their European Cup matches away from Highbury in order to maximise revenue. Arsenal won twice, drew once and lost 3 times, including a memorable Batistuta goal for Fiorentina in a 1-0 victory, which is the last time Arsenal have been knocked out of Europe before Christmas. In hindsight, Arsenal was quick to call it a wrong decision. We decided to go to Wembley, but we didn't feel at home. The pitch was bigger, the ground was different, and for the English players, it was something completely unusual. Away from the North London rivals, Manchester United are the other English team to have failed in recent years at Wembley, falling to a 3-1 defeat to Barcelona in the Champions League final in 2011. So what does the future hold for Spurs and their ties with Wembley? First off, when it comes to European football, it's only the Champions League in which Spurs are unable to play at Hart Lane. So if they make it to the Europa League, they'll have the option to either extend their agreement with the FA for Wembley or return to the Lane. The problem still lies ahead for Daniel Levy and his side. With their stadium set to be unusable in the 2017-18 season, they'll be forced to relocate all league and cup matches to another ground, with Wembley and Stadium MK the current frontrunners. But the question remains, after Spurs' disastrous European campaign, would a whole season at Wembley be a wise decision? The problems of both the performances and the atmosphere that have faced Tottenham in the last few months will be a telling warning to London rivals Chelsea, who originally applied for permission to use Wembley before Spurs did. With the North London club being further along the redevelopment process, they were granted permission instead. Should Chelsea attempt to break the Wembley curse? Where should Spurs play their home games next season? And what do you believe was the issue for Spurs at Wembley? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Copper 90.